All right. Welcome to This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty, the number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is episode 64. Today we welcome a Texas native who's had a remarkable career in both film and television. You know her from Mork and Mindy, General Hospital, Life Goes On, Glee, Night Shift, Dave, and of course, as George's therapist, Dana Foley, in 3 iconic episodes of Seinfeld in season 4. Please welcome Gina Hecht. Gina,
Yes.
welcome.
Thank you.
This is such a treat, Gina. So take us back, 1992.
And here's the deal, and I don't care, but you called me Gina at first, which was right, and then you went back to Gina. But once again, I don't care.
Really?
It's-
All right, Gina.
Because you said hi, Gina, at the beginning, and then you said Gina, so I thought, oh, he actually knows how to pronounce my name. Otherwise, I would have never corrected you. And I don't care. So we can just continue from here.
Well, no, listen, pronunciations, as George Costanza, pronunciation's key, right?
No, it's not.
So, Gina, take us back, 1992. The first episode you're in was the pick, but just tell us how the whole role came about, the audition process, anything you remember. I know going back,
I remember a lot
years.
I don't remember a lot about a lot of things I do. I remember this very well. So where do I start this? So when this first came out, I, like every other actress my age, auditioned for Elaine. So I went in for Elaine originally.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And didn't get it. And, but had a good audition. They seemed to like me. They seemed to respond well. Cut to, I did a series with Jason Alexander in 1987. We did the pilot and then we did the series, and it was called Everything's Relative. It was short-lived. We did, I think, 10 episodes of it. And it wasn't very good and it was not successful. But we were so grateful we found each other through it because we became best friends. And so now cut to Jason is doing Seinfeld. I keep being called in for different roles throughout the years of Seinfeld. I mean, each season I would go in for 1 or 2 or 3 different parts.
Huh.
And Jason had a party at his house. I think it must have been during the summer. I don't think the season was going. And Jerry was there and Larry was there. And before this, I had played poker with Larry and Jason. So we kind of knew each other just enough to kind of nod and say, hi, how are you? And because I had gone in so many times and not gotten parts, when I saw Jerry at the party, he just put his head down and shook his head like he was embarrassed to see me. I said, what? He said, oh my God, I'm just so embarrassed that we haven't cast you yet, and I just can't even bring you in anymore. It's too terrible. I said, listen, I'll let you know when I'm not willing to come in anymore. In the meantime, if I'm right for something, bring me in for it. And finally, they just offered me this part after all those different auditions and so forth for various roles throughout the seasons. When this came up, I didn't go in for it. They just offered me the role of therapist.
We've heard that a lot, multiple times, and then finally to get that role. But it worked out for you. But it sounds like this role was meant for you. Clearly, I'm curious. Obviously, you went for Elaine, and there were probably a bunch of others. But I'm curious what those other ones were. But so, and again, this was season 4. So you probably tried out season 1, 2, and 3, but. I mean, season 4 is really when it really steamrolled, right? I mean, the episode "The Shoes", that was the first episode of Thursday night, if you recall. That was a huge deal. So
you are telling me much more about this series than I know, but
right.
Please inform me.
So yeah, I mean, again, you went from the pick, let's say it did 16 million in the ratings on a Wednesday night, and then "The Shoes", that's when it just catapulted, right? So again, I watched it live. I remember watching it on Wednesday nights. It was my favorite show then, and then when it moved to Thursday for sure as well. But let's just go kind of episode by episode here. Or actually, So you got the role. Did you know it was a 3-episode arc, or
No.
what they tell you?
I one and done as far as I knew. So I did not know that it was going to recur. Because it was George's therapist. Obviously, he needed a lot of therapy. So I was hoping that, there would be even more episodes than that. But yeah, so it was lovely every time I got a call that.
Oh, so that's how it works. So after the pick aired in December of '92, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when did you know you were going to come on for the next episode? Was it right away or just?
Well, you would know more than I do in terms of the order of them. I think I maybe did 2 in that season and then 1 in another, or 1 in that season and then 2 in another. I do remember that I at least it was after a hiatus, because I remember coming back to the first table read after the hiatus. So
Right. So yeah, so the hiatus was probably I'd say the January break, if that's what they do in Hollywood. So essentially, yeah, you were in the pick, which was the Christmas episode.
Okay.
In December. And then you came back. The Shoes aired in February, and then obviously you were on the finale in season 4. So it was all season 4, just 2 in '93 and 1 in '92.
I see.
So let me ask you. So how do you prepare to become a therapist? Because what's interesting is I feel like you kind of put it on the map, right? And then The Sopranos had it. It just became a thing. But like you and George, I don't know, maybe that did happen in TV, but I never really saw it before. But how do you prepare for that role? How do you get in that mindset to be a therapist? And clearly you knew Jason, so maybe that helped.
No, knowing Jason didn't help.
No,
not really. I mean, the only thing that helped is that we had a history and a rapport with one another, so we could just cut all the small talk and just say, what about this? What about that? So that was fantastic. I think I'd played therapist before that. I'm not sure, but what I was trying to find, and honestly, I don't think I found it as successfully as I might have today. But it was walking the line between truth and heightened truth and a heightened reality. So be the therapist. I wish I had made her a little more neurotic than she was. I mean, obviously she loses it with the zipper and all of that. I mean, that's nothing hopefully a real therapist would do. But I wish I had brought a little bit more of that into other episodes. And I think, I don't know, maybe they would have enjoyed having her more. I think maybe I played her too kind of real and close to the vest for what it was. I mean, no one told me this. I'm just thinking about it as you asked me that question. I thought, well,
yeah, I guess
did they been a little bigger? So
did they get? So was the opportunity there for a little leeway, a little ad-libbing, or was it sticking to the script?
No. I did not do any ad-libbing. I mean, you've got these great writers. I mean, you've got Larry David and Larry Charles, and I don't remember if Jeff Schaffer was on yet. So Jeff Schaffer is now exec producer, shameless advertising of Dave, and but. No, I mean, I don't know if the main 4 characters improv a little to find a moment here and there, but it wasn't my place to do that. And frankly, the writing was all there. I mean, it was great writing. It's just, what do you do with that writing? So, I feel like somebody I haven't seen these shows since they've aired. I should probably watch them. But somebody had sent a clip to me of something, and it was. You'll know the show better I think it must have been the pilot, I think. And because I'm sitting there, he says something about, what did I think of it? Did you read it? What did I think of it? And I went, yeah, I think I could have had a stronger negative opinion of what I thought of that script. When I saw that, I went, I could have really been, that was not good.
So that was in the Shoes episode, but it was.
Well,
it was.
There you go.
But it was referring to the pilot. You're right.
Yeah.
But no, I thought you were pretty harsh on George there, and just, I mean, I think season 4 is just classic George. I think the scenes with you just like highlight that at an extreme level. I mean, him coming back at you and telling you that you stink.
Yeah.
And,
That
you
was
know,
the
that's
stuff they sent me. Yeah.
yeah, that diploma on the wall is my idea of comedy.
Yeah,
And it's
right.
funny, you finish both scenes. Well, you finish every scene with him in very similar fashions. I'm sure this was deliberate. Um, so in the pick, you just say, we're going to have to stop. Like it just ends abruptly,
Right.
obviously with the whole zipper thing. But then
Right.
the other two, the lines are exactly the same. It's, I think you better go. So it,
I didn't even know that.
yeah,
I was not even aware.
it's such, well, because you were critical of the script.
Uh-huh.
And then in the pilot,
Well,
you
my
know,
guess is it wasn't because I was critical of the script. It must have been that George was being belligerent to me that I
right.
ended the session. I mean, I don't think I ended it because it was a bad script, did I?
All right. Oh he was just becoming belligerent, of course.
Yeah, yeah,
And
okay.
then in the pilot, the finale of season 4, you know, you mentioned to him that there's something on his lip, and you better get it checked out.
Right.
You remember
And he
that?
freaks out over that.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
So he
That,
freaks out of that, and that's when you again say, "I think you better go." So,
uh,
um, so it's funny. All these episodes are just, we rank all episodes throughout the whole run, and
mhm.
we had the pick at 46, the shoes at 27, and the pilot at 26. Which, again, anything in the
Wow.
top 50, you're in 3 of the top 50, which is just remarkable episodes.
Wow.
What's your favorite episode of the 3 you were in?
Chris.
I know it's like,
I'd have to rewatch them. I don't know. I mean, I can tell you just for me personally. Well, I mean, just for me personally, I love doing the zipper thing with Jason. That was a lot of fun. We had fun with that. Um, but I remember hearing about this Christmas card. Do you know the story of this Christmas card? That was the nip, right?
yeah. It's funny. The way the shows are like labeled, you wouldn't know the nip was in the pick. So there was so much going on in that episode. That was when Jerry was caught picking his nose. Elaine had
Right.
the nip picture, yeah. And then obviously,
That was in the pit? Okay.
yeah.
Whatever that was in, have you heard about this Christmas card that started this?
No, do tell.
So it was a friend of, I think it was a friend of one of the producers. I don't know if it was Larry David or Larry Char or I don't remember. There is a picture of a man. Now, they showed me this picture, but I don't know if it was for real or not. But there he is, Christmas morning in a robe with his kids gathered around him, his wife, a Christmas tree, all of this, and his junk in the robe is open. He doesn't realize it, and his junk is hanging out. I mean, just right there. And he sent that Christmas card out to everyone. I mean, it seems impossible that somebody wouldn't have noticed that. I guess everybody's just looking at themselves at their face going, yeah, okay, yeah, that's cute. The kids look cute. Yeah, I look good. Okay, that's fine. I don't know how something like that gets out, but that's what inspired. This is the story that I heard. That's what
Yeah,
inspired then the nip.
the nip. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
fantastic episode. So what else do you remember about, I guess, being on the set? I mean, what's interesting is it's very rare for someone to come back in 3 episodes as you did, but you only had interactions again on set with
Hmm.
Jason.
Hmm.
Did you? I mean, did you befriend anybody else? Any types of stories throughout that
Well,
run that you could remember?
not real. I mean, not friend, but I mean, Julia, as I'm sure everyone has said, is so nice and kind and giving and gracious. And, she just makes you feel at home immediately. And Jerry was sweet and welcoming. And Michael, too. I guess I had less interaction with Michael because just because Julia's just super warm and friendly, and 2 women on the set or whatever, and Jerry kind of had an eye on other scenes, so Michael wouldn't be there to necessarily give direction or look at a scene and see how it goes and so forth, where Jerry might, give his opinion and so forth. No, I mean, there was nothing negative. It was,
Yeah, no,
I mean, everyone always says that about who's going to stand up and go, this sucked, but it was really
right.
nice.
No, not that I'm fishing for that, but yeah, that's literally every guest star we talked to. It's like everyone was so welcoming.
Yeah.
And like the beauty of the show was, they let the guest star shine, which clearly was evident with you. Yeah, I mean, the shoes, I just go back to the shoes. I mean, talk about just a jam-packed episode with, we had Anita Barone on. Like, did you?
Well, now that's interesting because I remember Anita because when you said that you wanted to do this interview, so I went and just happened to look at one, and that was one she was on. And I remember, but I can't remember how, I knew her somehow before that episode. I don't remember if it was theater or what it was, but I had remember at the time thinking, I really admire her and this is a good, solid actress or something. We didn't keep up with one another after that, but I remember I had some sort of industry relationship with her at the time. She's so talented, so good.
Yeah, she was an incredible episode. There's so many, great scenes throughout those episodes. Like you said, you get confused on like which is in which episode because there's just so much going on. What do you remember about? Because I think Jerry talks about this. Like the show is it's handmade, right? There's not that many people involved. Like it's Larry and Jerry.
Yeah,
that's kind of it. Tom Sharon was a great director for sure. But what do you remember about on set? Kind of who was it? Larry running the show?
Yeah, that's my memory. I also had children during this time, so with each birth, memory cells just died out with me. But my memory was that it was Larry had as much input as any director did in my mind, in my memory of it. I mean, it's not dissimilar from Dave that I'm doing now, as far as Dave really overseeing everything. I also think that Jerry kind of signed off to everything. I think he was there watching the scenes that he wasn't in either. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
it's got his name on it, just like Dave has his name on it. And Jerry was a participant in this. He didn't just sit back and show up. I mean, he and Larry were the guys.
Right. Yeah. So that must have been great. So after that first episode, getting that second call. So literally it was, you got a call each time for the new episode. You didn't I know the first one, you knew only doing one. Did they know you were, after that, was it going to be two or again, it was just one?
No, I had no idea. I don't know if they know initially. I don't, I'm not sure about that. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I did not know. They would call a few weeks in advance and my dates for availability to check to make sure I was available. And then they would book me for those dates. And that's how it worked.
Right. And I think the season 4 was the only season that had essentially an arc, right? They were working towards that pilot. Every other season episodes can kind of just stand alone. It didn't matter. So I think that's why you were important to that piece. So were you a fan of the show before? Like, you said you haven't watched the show in 20 years, but have you, prior to that, when it was live, were you a fan of the show?
Oh, I thought it was fantastic. I mean, as you know, there was nothing remotely like it before, and really nothing like it since.
Agreed.
I mean, Dave. I mean, in a way, it's a similar sense of. Well, I don't know, maybe not.
But no, it's got Jeff Schaefer. You got some Seinfeld in there, I mean.
Yeah, it's a different vibe for sure. But
listen,
I was a fan. I mean, I obviously I knew it because Jason and I were best friends at that point. We had done this show previous to Seinfeld, And we had both done different pilots after Seinfeld. I mean, after Everything's Relative, he did Seinfeld, and I did Baywatch, believe it or not. But then for some reason they decided I really wasn't what the show was about.
So you did like the Hasselhoff Baywatch with like
Yeah,
Ken Anderson, yeah.
yeah. I played Parker Stevenson's wife in the pilot, and then after they did the test of what it was and the show and all that, they kind of went, "Wait, what is she doing here?" And they decided maybe I wasn't the best fit for that.
I think you're the only Baywatch Seinfeld crossover.
I bet that's not true.
I don't know. I looked that
Girls
one up.
that Jerry had.
Oh, fair enough. You're right.
I bet.
Actually, the girl, Jennifer Campbell, who was in the pic with you, she was in Baywatch. You're right.
Oh, was she? I was just throwing it out there. I have no idea, but I know that.
Actually, it turns out
it's a lot of pretty girls.
Yeah, the same episode you were in. And it's funny. You also did a crossover with Friends, and there's a lot of crossover between Seinfeld and Friends. Clearly, am I right? Like, what do you remember? Maybe the differences between that show. Obviously, they were both must-see TV on Thursday night.
Yeah. They were such different experiences, and honestly, I mean, I shouldn't have done Friends. Marta Kaufman was very sweet, and she offered me this role. Tracy, the casting director, and Marta, but I had just had my second child weeks before, and I couldn't even think, and it was something so easy and simple, and I just couldn't find this character. And I remember just kind of honestly feeling a little bit embarrassed about the whole thing, just like, good Lord, this is such an easy thing to do. I was struggling to find the right character for me, and it should have been a no-brainer. And it just, I don't know. That's one of those memories that I go, oh God. But
it's nice for the resume. But I'd rather be remembered for some. So you mentioned your kids. How old are they? Have they seen you in Seinfeld?
Well, that's a funny story. I forgot about this. So when my children were little, so I will tell you that they grew up with Jason, and both of our families, we were godparents to each other's children, and we would travel together, and we were at each other's homes every weekend. And the kids, their kids and my kids, they're like siblings. They, spent so much time together and had so many memories. And I think it was I'm not sure if it was Bailey. Anyway, one of my girls, I think it must have been Bailey, my younger one, but she was next door. We really didn't have the TV on in our house very much. I tried to just read to them, and certainly Seinfeld would have never been on, or any of that. I mean, if anything, it would have been, Sesame Street or videos about dolphins, or, that sort of thing, animal stuff. But she was next door, and they had Seinfeld on in the background when I came to pick her up. And I walked in, and it happened to be an episode I was on, just randomly that I was on. And Bailey turned to the TV and said, "Look, Mommy." And I looked at it, and she went, "It's Jason." And I went, yeah. Who else is there? Who else is there with Jason? She looked at it and looked at me, and she went, "Is that you?" I said, it is. But she couldn't believe Jason was on television. That just blew her mind, because we didn't talk about it.
Right.
I mean, she didn't know. It was just Jason. She didn't know from Jason being an actor. It was
unbelievable.
Hilarious. It was hilarious.
And what an acting job he did. Was he, I mean, for my money, Jason Alexander playing George Costanza, the best character I've ever entitled. I mean, I'll tell you, sir, my confirmation name is George. Okay.
Okay.
I had to tell my mother it was a great saint, but in theory, it was because I was in love with that character.
No.
Yeah. Hey, what are you gonna do? You're in 8th grade. You failed the show. This is what happens. But
that's hilarious.
what's funny is he he gets credit, but like he never won an Emmy. I wonder if that ever kind of rubbed him the wrong way, or he kind of loved the role he had, right?
Yes, he loved the role. He was very grateful to the series. He loved doing it. If he was horribly disappointed, I think I would have known. He never said anything to me. And I mean, we talk about everything. So he wouldn't have stood on ceremony to not say anything to me. If he felt robbed, he would have felt friggin' robbed of but he never.
Right.
I think,
and it's funny,
I
guys
don't remember what the competition was, but I think every time he was up, I think he was kind of feeling like, yeah, this is not going to happen. But
yeah, well,
and honored every time to be recognized.
I know. Well, the thing was, some of the competition was usually Michael Richards as Kramer, so you're gonna lose. You lose to a teammate again. Yeah. And then you guys reunited. I never, obviously it was kind of not a short-lived play, but Neil Simon's The Prisoner of Second Avenue. That must have been and you guys were both lead roles.
Yes.
In that play. So that must have been fun to reunite. Friends.
It
15 years later from Seinfeld, the whole thing.
It was. And it was. And I loved doing there were some complications on my end with it, but nothing to do with Jason. I love working with Jason, love being on stage with him. I had a really very rewarding, more rewarding to me than that, was he directed me in Broadway Bound. And Broadway Bound, for me, that role of Kate was, I would turn around and do it again right now. I did it first at La Mirada, and it was directed by a wonderful man named Jeff Maynard. He directed, it was fantastic. And then we moved it. That was a 1,200 seat theater, and we took that and then it didn't get moved. That production ended, and then another production was done at the Odyssey by Ron Saucy. And Ron had Jason direct that. I think he thought it'd be great for his theater to be able to say Jason directed this and so forth. And that experience working with Jason, because Jason had done that show on Broadway. I saw Jason do this production on Broadway when I was in New York to do Everything's Relative with him. It was shot in New York.
Wow.
When I watched him do that, I then played that character's mother, directed by him 30 whatever odd years later.
It's all full circle.
Yeah.
Wow.
That was a great experience. Loved that.
So what are you up to today? You're Dave, obviously still going
Dave
strong.
Premieres. I mean, this won't be long in your timeline because I don't know when people see this, but so you and I in live time right now. Dave premieres tomorrow night, which is June 16th, for its second season on FX, streaming the next day on Hulu.
All right. And we'll get this up tomorrow and shout that out. Sure.
Cool. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing. Cool.
Well, hopefully the Seinfeld residual checks are still coming in.
It's launched. Thank you.
Yeah. Seinfeld's coming off Hulu in about 8 days, and it's going to be launching on Netflix. So I'm telling you, I think similar to what happened with The Office and Friends, there's going to be a whole new generation that get to know Dana Foley. So
interesting.
I'm excited about that.
Let me just tell you. So it is so bizarre to me, but when I play poker, I play tournament poker, and I cannot tell you the young men, probably around your age, maybe some even a little bit younger, but I'll be sitting there and they will look at me and look down and look at me and look down. It's not in a poker world. And I'm thinking, Okay, what do they know me from? Because then I'm thinking, do they know me from? Because a lot of young guys have also, there's been a resurgence of night shift, and guys love
Yeah.
night shift. But I look so different than I did then. I'm 30 years older than when I did any of these things. So I'm always surprised when people kind of recognize me. But there have been some poker players that just sit there and go, "Are you the zipper? Are you?" I go, I am. So there are. You were talking about a resurgence of this. Maybe there will be yet even another resurgence. But at some point, they're not going to recognize me from that to now. At some point.
At some point, but Gina, you still look great. And I tell you, from Seinfeld fans, nobody could have played Dana Foley better. So hats off.
Thank you. Thanks.
But this was a treat. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. You reminded me of things I hadn't thought about. I'm going to go rewatch Seinfeld.
Yeah, go rewatch a few episodes tonight. Why not?
I think I will. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.